Welcome to our deep dive into Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Okay.
This book by Robert Kiyosaki
Yeah.
is practically a legend in the personal finance world,
Yeah, it is.
famous for its no-nonsense approach
Uh-huh.
and that whole two dads angle.
Right.
You've got Kiyosaki's own father, the poor dad,
Right.
who represents the conventional thinking about money,
Right.
and then his best friend's dad, the rich dad, who offers a totally different perspective.
Yeah.
Today, we're going to break down those core lessons.
Okay.
And see why this book has struck such a chord with so many readers.
Yeah, it's interesting how Kiyosaki frames the conversation right from the start.
Yeah.
He doesn't just talk about getting rich. He focuses on financial literacy as the foundation.
Right.
He argues that many people are stuck in a cycle of working for money rather than having their money work for them.
That's where that famous line comes in, right?
Yeah.
Job is an acronym for just over broke.
Yeah.
It's blunt, but it definitely makes you stop and think.
It does.
Seems like he's pushing us to reevaluate our relationship with work and money.
Exactly. He's not saying that all jobs are bad or
Right.
that everyone needs to become an entrepreneur.
Right.
Instead, he's highlighting the importance of acquiring financial knowledge and skills that can help you build wealth, regardless of your career path.
Yeah.
Think of it like this. Even if you're working a traditional job,
Okay.
you can still apply the principles of Rich Dad, Poor Dad to manage your income, invest wisely, and create a more secure financial future.
So how does Kiyosaki suggest we break free from that just over broke cycle?
Right.
One of the first big ideas he introduces is work to learn, don't work for money. What's the deeper meaning behind that?
He's urging you to shift your focus from simply earning a paycheck to acquiring knowledge and skills that can lead to long-term financial success. He uses the example of his rich dad owning businesses that generated income, whether he was physically present or not.
I remember him talking about owning a laundromat and a mini storage business.
Yeah, perfect examples.
He wasn't spending his days doing laundry or managing storage units. He built systems that allowed those businesses to run without his constant involvement.
That's a key concept. It's about creating assets that generate income, even when you're not actively working. But to get there, you need to invest time in learning about finance, investing, and business. This might mean taking courses, reading books, or even working in different fields to gain diverse experience.
So it's not just about picking up a side hustle. It's about intentionally choosing work experiences that will teach you valuable skills and knowledge that you can leverage in your financial journey.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense.
And this leads us to another core lesson from Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which is understanding the difference between assets and liabilities.
Okay.
This is where Kiyosaki gets really specific about what it means to have your money work for you.
He's constantly hammering this point home. He says, the rich buy assets, the poor only have expenses. The middle class buy liabilities they think are assets. But what does that actually look like in real life?
Kiyosaki defines an asset as something that puts money in your pocket,
Huh?
while a liability takes money out. Think about your own life. Do you own items that are costing you money instead of generating it?
Like that brand new car that loses value the second you drive it off the lot. It's shiny and exciting, but it's a liability because it's constantly draining your bank account with payments, insurance, gas, and repairs.
Precisely.
Okay.
On the other hand, a rental property that generates positive cash flow,
Right.
even after expenses, is an asset.
Okay.
Kiyosaki argues that focusing on acquiring assets that generate income is crucial for building long-term wealth.
So it's not just about earning more money. It's about using your money wisely to acquire assets that will work for you and generate more income over time.
Yep.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, Kiyosaki doesn't stop at just explaining assets and liabilities. He goes a step further and talks about the importance of financial literacy. He even says financial aptitude is what you do with the money once you make it.
Right.
So it's not just about acquiring assets. It's about understanding how to manage and grow those assets effectively, right?
Absolutely. He goes on to identify 4 key areas of expertise: accounting, investing, understanding markets, and the law. Mastering these areas, he argues, gives you a solid foundation for building and preserving wealth.
He even uses a really interesting analogy, comparing games to feedback systems in finance. He suggests that playing certain games can help you learn about managing money and develop your financial intelligence.
Well,
What kind of games does he have in mind?
think about games like Monopoly.
Oh, okay.
They teach you in a simplified way
Uh-huh.
about buying property, managing cash flow, negotiating deals, and even understanding the impact of chance and risk.
Right.
While these games don't perfectly mirror real-world finance, they can introduce you to key concepts and help you develop a more intuitive understanding of how money works.
It's a fun way to start thinking about money in a different way,
It is.
especially for those who might find traditional financial education a bit dry or intimidating.
Exactly. He's encouraging a more playful and experiential approach to learning, which
Right.
can make it less daunting and more engaging.
This all ties into the bigger picture he's painting.
Hmm.
To build wealth, you need to develop your financial intelligence.
Yeah.
It's not just about luck or inheritance. It's about actively acquiring knowledge and skills.
Absolutely.
Now, let's move on to another key concept from the book, and this one always sparks a lot of discussion. Mind your own business.
Right.
What does that even mean when it comes to money? Is he suggesting we should all become entrepreneurs?
That's a common misconception.
Good.
Minding your own business in Kiyosaki's framework means focusing on building that strong asset column we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Assets that generate income for you, not for someone else's company.
Got it.
Remember, he defines an asset as something that puts money in your pocket.
Right.
So minding your own business is really about building a system that works for you, whether that's through entrepreneurship, real estate investing, or other income-generating assets.
I see the connection back to work to learn.
Right.
And not just working for a paycheck.
Exactly.
It's about shifting your mindset from being an employee to being an owner, even if it's on a small scale.
Yeah.
But how can someone who's not an entrepreneur mind their own business in a practical sense? What if someone isn't interested in starting a company or buying rental properties?
That's a great question, and it gets to the heart of what Kiyosaki is advocating for. Even if you're not running your own business, you can still mind your own business by focusing on building a portfolio of income-generating assets.
Okay.
This could include things like investing in dividend-paying stocks,
Uh-huh.
creating and selling intellectual property, or even building a side hustle that eventually generates passive income.
Okay, so it's about expanding your definition of business.
Hmm.
It doesn't necessarily have to be a traditional brick-and-mortar company. It's about creating income streams that work for you, even if you're not actively trading your time for money.
Yeah.
That's a really empowering concept. Now, Kiyosaki doesn't just focus on the tactical side of money management.
Right.
He also dedicates a significant portion of the book to addressing the mental and emotional barriers that often hold people back from achieving financial success.
Yes,
He doesn't just tell you what to do, he helps you understand why you might be struggling to do it.
exactly. And he outlines 5 key reasons people struggle to build wealth.
Okay.
Fear, cynicism, laziness, bad habits, and arrogance.
Right.
And he delves into how these factors can sabotage your financial progress, even if you have the knowledge and resources.
Let's start with fear, since that's something most people can relate to,
Yeah,
especially when it comes to money.
sure.
Kiyosaki famously says, the pain of losing money is far greater than the joy of being rich.
Right.
I think that really speaks to the emotional side of money management.
That quote highlights the very real psychological barriers that can prevent people from taking financial risks, even if those risks are calculated and potentially lucrative.
Yeah.
Fear can be paralyzing, and it's often rooted in a lack of knowledge or experience.
So how does Kiyosaki suggest we overcome that fear? Is it just about being brave and taking a leap of faith?
It's more nuanced than that.
Okay.
He emphasizes the importance of education and understanding.
Right.
The more you know about how money works, the less intimidating it becomes.
Right.
He encourages you to learn about different asset classes, understand market trends, and develop a solid financial foundation. Knowledge is power, especially when it comes to conquering financial fear.
So it's not just about ignoring the fear. It's about equipping yourself with the knowledge and skills to make informed decisions, which can help mitigate that fear. But what about cynicism?
Yeah.
It seems like cynicism can be just as paralyzing as fear.
Kiyosaki addresses that as well. He argues that cynicism often stems from limiting beliefs and a lack of self-belief. He encourages you to challenge those negative thoughts and replace them with a more positive and empowering mindset.
So it's about shifting your internal dialogue from, I can't do this, to, I can learn how to do this. It's about believing in your own ability to achieve financial success.
Exactly. And that leads us to the next barrier he discusses, laziness.
Okay.
Now, he's not talking about being physically lazy. He's talking about a more insidious kind of laziness. He says the most common form of laziness is staying busy. What do you think he means by that?
I remember reading that line and thinking, wait, isn't being busy a good thing? But then I realized he's talking about that trap of filling our lives with busy work that doesn't actually move us closer to our goals.
Right.
It's like we're spinning our wheels,
Yeah,
working hard, but not necessarily working smart. We
exactly.
might be busy at our jobs, busy with errands, busy with social obligations, but we're not making time for the activities that will truly build wealth and financial freedom.
That's a brilliant insight. It's about prioritizing and being intentional with your time and energy.
Uh-huh.
Are you spending your time on activities that align with your financial goals, or are you just filling your days with distractions and busy work? That's a powerful question to ask yourself.
It's a reminder to step back and evaluate how you're spending your most valuable resource, your time. Are
Exactly.
you investing it wisely, or are you just letting it slip away?
And that leads us to the next barrier, bad habits.
Okay.
Kiyosaki argues that many people develop bad financial habits, such as overspending, failing to track expenses, or neglecting to save and invest. These habits can undermine even the best financial plans.
He stresses the importance of developing good financial habits early on.
Yes.
This might include creating a budget, tracking your spending, setting savings goals, and automating your investments. He even suggests paying yourself first, setting aside a portion of your income for savings and investments before you pay your bills or indulge in discretionary spending.
It's about establishing a system that supports your financial goals and helps you build wealth consistently over time.
Finally, Kiyosaki addresses arrogance as a barrier to financial success. He argues that arrogance can lead to complacency and a resistance to learning new things. He even says Richard has found that many people use arrogance to try to hide their own ignorance. It's a reminder to stay humble, be open to new information, and always be willing to learn and grow.
He encourages you to surround yourself with people who are smarter than you, who can challenge your assumptions and push you to expand your knowledge. Don't let your ego get in the way of your financial education.
So Kiyosaki is really addressing the whole person here.
He is.
He's acknowledging that financial success isn't just about numbers and strategies. It's also about mindset, beliefs, and habits. He's urging you to develop not only your financial intelligence, but also your emotional intelligence when it comes to money.
And that's a powerful message. Rich Dad, Poor Dad goes beyond just giving financial advice. It challenges you to examine your beliefs about money and develop a more empowered relationship with wealth.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground already.
We have.
We've explored the concepts of work to learn, the difference between assets and liabilities, the importance of financial literacy, the idea of minding your own business, and the 5 key barriers that often hold people back from achieving financial success. But there's still so much more to unpack. In our next segment, we'll delve into Kiyosaki's personal journey, his specific investment strategies, and his advice for overcoming those mental and emotional barriers in more detail.
Stay with us as we continue our deep dive into the world of Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Sounds good. Welcome back to our deep dive into Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So far, we've explored some of the key concepts Kiyosaki lays out, like work to learn,
Yeah.
understanding assets versus liabilities,
Right.
and the importance of financial literacy.
Uh-huh.
But now I'm curious to delve into how he actually put these ideas into practice in his own life.
That's where his personal story becomes really fascinating.
Right.
He contrasts the financial lessons he learned from his own father, the poor dad, with those from his best friend's dad, the rich dad.
Yeah.
These two contrasting perspectives really highlight the power of mindset and environment when it comes to money.
He talks about how his poor dad, despite being highly educated and hardworking,
Right.
struggled financially because he focused on job security and earning a steady paycheck.
Oh.
He was always working for money, but he never seemed to get ahead.
His poor dad represented that traditional model of success. Go to school, get a good job, work hard, and save for retirement.
Right.
But Kiyosaki observed that this path often led to a cycle of living paycheck to paycheck, with little opportunity to build real wealth.
In contrast, his rich dad, who didn't even finish high school,
Right.
emphasized financial literacy, entrepreneurship, and building assets that generate income. He encouraged young Robert to think differently about money, to see opportunities where others saw only risks.
It's interesting how Kiyosaki's rich dad challenged conventional wisdom. He didn't see formal education as the only path to success. He valued real-world experience, financial knowledge, and the ability to create value.
I remember the story about how his rich dad made him work for free at his businesses,
Right.
even though young Robert complained that it was unfair.
Hmm.
Looking back, Kiyosaki realized those early experiences taught him invaluable lessons about cash flow, business operations, and the importance of creating value.
It's a great example of how unconventional learning experiences can be more impactful than traditional education. His rich dad wasn't just telling him about money, he was showing him how money worked in the real world.
So Kiyosaki's rich dad really emphasized this idea of learning by doing, of getting your hands dirty and experiencing the ups and downs of entrepreneurship firsthand. But did Kiyosaki embrace this approach right away? Or was he initially hesitant to follow his rich dad's advice?
He admits that he was initially resistant. He was drawn to the comfort and security of a traditional career path.
Okay.
But his rich dad's lessons eventually took root, and he began to experiment with different business ventures.
He talks about his early failures in business,
Yeah.
like the nylon wallet venture that flopped. He even ended up bankrupt at one point,
Yeah.
right? It's not exactly the glamorous rags to riches story we often hear.
Those early setbacks were crucial to his development. He learned valuable lessons about resilience, risk management, and the importance of learning from your mistakes.
He even says, failure inspires winners. Failure defeats losers.
Right.
It's that whole growth mindset idea of embracing failure as a stepping stone to success.
Exactly.
He learned more from his failures than he ever could have from just reading books or attending seminars.
That's a key takeaway for anyone interested in building wealth. It's not going to be a smooth, linear path. There will be setbacks and challenges along the way. The key is to learn from those experiences and keep moving forward.
So Kiyosaki learned from his rich dad, took some risks,
Yeah.
experienced some setbacks,
Right.
but ultimately started finding success. But what specific strategies did he use to build his wealth? He's known for his love of real estate, but does he recommend that approach for everyone?
He does advocate for real estate as a powerful wealth-building tool.
Right,
He argues that real estate can provide both cash flow and appreciation, and it offers tax advantages that other investments don't.
right.
However, he also acknowledges that real estate investing requires significant capital, knowledge, and a tolerance for risk.
He doesn't sugarcoat it. He's very clear that real estate is not a passive investment. It requires work, due diligence, and careful management.
Right.
He even stresses the importance of finding a great property manager to handle the day-to-day operations.
He emphasizes the power of leverage, using debt strategically to acquire assets that will appreciate in value over time. This can amplify your returns, but it also magnifies your risk if the investment doesn't perform as expected.
He gives a concrete example in the book
Yeah.
about how he and his wife purchased a small condo using a very small down payment and a loan. Then, they rented out the condo and used the rental income to cover the mortgage and expenses.
Right.
Over time, the value of the condo increased, and they were able to leverage that equity to purchase additional properties.
This example illustrates how leverage can be used to accelerate wealth building. But as you mentioned,
Right,
it's crucial to understand the risks involved.
right.
If the real estate market declines or the rental income doesn't cover the expenses,
Yeah.
you could end up losing money.
So real estate is a big part of his strategy,
Yeah.
but he also talks about investing in stocks, bonds, and even intellectual property. He encourages readers to diversify their income streams and create a portfolio of assets that align with their interests, knowledge, and risk tolerance.
He's not advocating for a one-size-fits-all approach. He believes that the best investment strategy is the one that aligns with your individual goals, resources, and risk appetite. He also emphasizes the importance of due diligence, thoroughly researching investments before committing any capital. He encourages readers to educate themselves about different asset classes, market trends, and financial strategies.
He even suggests finding mentors or advisors
Yeah.
who have experience in areas where you're lacking.
Right.
It's interesting how he frames continuous learning as an essential part of the wealth-building process.
He believes that the more you learn about finance, investing, and business, the more opportunities you'll be able to identify and capitalize on. He's a big advocate for attending seminars, reading books, networking with other investors, and staying informed about current events that could impact the markets.
So it's not just about acquiring assets. It's about constantly expanding your knowledge and refining your strategies as the market evolves.
Yeah.
It's a lifelong pursuit.
Absolutely. He even suggests that the most successful investors are often those who are constantly learning, adapting, and evolving their approach.
Okay, so we've talked about Kiyosaki's personal journey, his emphasis on real estate, and his belief in the importance of diversification and continuous learning.
Right?
But I want to circle back to those mental and emotional barriers we discussed earlier.
Okay.
He dedicates a good chunk of the book to addressing these roadblocks. Why does he put so much emphasis on the psychology of wealth?
Kiyosaki believes that your beliefs and attitudes about money
Right.
can either support or sabotage your financial success.
Okay.
He argues that many people are held back by limiting beliefs, fears, and negative self-talk.
He even suggests writing down your beliefs about money
Yeah.
and then analyzing whether those beliefs are empowering or limiting.
Hmm.
He challenges you to question where those beliefs came from
Right.
and whether they're based on facts or just inherited assumptions.
It's about becoming aware of the unconscious scripts that might be running in the background and influencing your financial decisions.
He talks about how fear can be paralyzing, preventing people from taking action or seizing opportunities.
Yeah.
He encourages you to confront your fears, understand their root causes, and develop strategies for managing them.
He even offers a reframing technique for dealing with fear. He suggests asking yourself what's the worst that could happen,
Right.
and then developing a plan for mitigating that potential downside.
So it's not about being reckless or ignoring risks. It's about acknowledging the fear,
Oh, right.
assessing the potential downside,
Uh-huh.
and developing a plan to manage that risk.
Exactly. He's not advocating for blind faith or ignoring potential problems. He's encouraging you to be prepared and to have a strategy in place so that you can move forward with confidence, even in the face of uncertainty.
He also addresses cynicism, that voice of doubt that says it's too good to be true or I could never achieve that.
Right.
He argues that cynicism is often a defense mechanism, a way of protecting ourselves from disappointment or failure.
But he challenges you to examine whether your cynicism is serving you or holding you back. Is it protecting you from legitimate risks, or is it preventing you from pursuing potentially rewarding opportunities?
He encourages you to replace cynical thoughts with more positive and empowering beliefs. This might involve focusing on your past successes, surrounding yourself with supportive people, or simply practicing gratitude for what you already have.
It's about shifting your mindset from scarcity to abundance, from believing that there's not enough to go around to believing that there's plenty of opportunity for everyone who's willing to work for it.
He even tackles laziness,
Yeah.
but not in the traditional sense. Remember that line, the most common form of laziness is staying busy.
Yeah.
He's talking about that tendency to fill our lives with busy work that doesn't actually move us closer to our goals. I think a lot of us fall into that trap, especially in today's fast-paced world.
He challenges you to evaluate how you're spending your time and energy. Are you focusing on activities that align with your financial goals?
Right.
Or are you just spinning your wheels,
Yeah.
staying busy but not making real progress?
He encourages you to be intentional with your time, to prioritize the activities that will truly make a difference in your life. This might mean saying no to certain commitments, delegating tasks, or simply scheduling time for the things that matter most.
It's about taking control of your time and using it wisely to create the life you want.
He also talks about bad habits, like overspending and failing to track expenses. He argues that bad habits are often unconscious patterns of behavior that we repeat without even realizing it.
He encourages you to become aware of your spending habits, track your expenses, and develop a budget that aligns with your financial goals.
He even suggests setting up automatic savings and investment plans
Yeah.
so that you're consistently putting money aside for the future, even without having to think about it.
It's about creating systems that support your financial goals and make it easier to stick to good habits.
Finally, Kiyosaki addresses arrogance as a barrier to financial success. He argues that arrogance can lead to complacency and a resistance to learning new things. It's that know-it-all attitude that prevents us from being open to new ideas and perspectives.
He encourages you to cultivate a mindset of humility and curiosity, to be willing to admit when you don't know something, and to seek out knowledge from those who are more experienced or knowledgeable than you.
He even suggests surrounding yourself with people who will challenge your assumptions and push you to grow.
Right.
Don't be afraid to seek out mentors, advisors, or even critics who can offer valuable feedback and help you identify your blind spots.
He believes that the more you learn, the more you realize how much you don't know.
So, Kiyosaki is really addressing the whole person here.
He is.
He's acknowledging that financial success isn't just about numbers and strategies. It's also about mindset, beliefs, and habits. He's urging you to develop not only your financial intelligence, but also your emotional intelligence when it comes to money.
And that's what makes Rich Dad, Poor Dad such a compelling read. It goes beyond just giving financial advice. It challenges you to examine your relationship with money and develop a more empowered approach to building wealth.
We've explored Kiyosaki's personal journey, his investment strategies, and his advice for overcoming the mental and emotional barriers that often hold people back from achieving financial success.
Right.
But in our final segment, we'll delve into some of the controversies surrounding the book and its author.
We'll also explore the broader implications of his philosophy and leave you with some key takeaways to consider as you navigate your own financial journey.
Stay with us as we wrap up our deep dive into Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Oh.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dives into Rich Dad, Poor Dad. We've covered a lot of ground exploring Kiyosaki's core principles,
Right.
his personal journey,
Yeah.
and his practical advice for building both financial and emotional intelligence.
Mm.
But now it's time to address something we haven't touched on yet. The controversies surrounding the book. Rich Dad, Poor Dad has definitely sparked its fair share of debate over the years.
That's right. While the book has been incredibly popular and influential, it's also faced criticism from some financial experts and readers.
Yeah.
Some people find his approach overly simplistic or even misleading,
Huh.
while others question the validity of some of his claims.
One of the main criticisms I've heard is that Kiyosaki focuses too heavily on entrepreneurship and real estate, making it seem like those are the only paths to financial success.
Yeah.
He even uses that catchy line, "Job is an acronym for just over broke,"
Right.
which might rub some people the wrong way.
He does.
It makes it sound like he's dismissing anyone who chooses to work a traditional job.
That's a valid point. While Kiyosaki's own path to wealth involved entrepreneurship and real estate, he doesn't explicitly say that those are the only ways to build wealth.
Right.
However, his enthusiasm for those areas definitely shines through.
Yeah.
And it's important to remember that his personal experiences might not be universally applicable.
So it's essential to take his advice with a grain of salt and consider your own individual circumstances, goals, and risk tolerance. What works for one person might not work for another. There are plenty of people who find fulfillment and financial success through traditional employment or other investment strategies.
Absolutely. Diversification is key, both in terms of income streams and investment strategies.
Right.
There's no one-size-fits-all approach to building wealth.
Another critique I've come across is that some of his real estate strategies, while potentially lucrative, can be quite risky and require significant capital and expertise to pull off.
That's true. Kiyosaki often talks about using leverage, which can amplify returns,
Yeah.
but also increase the potential for losses.
Right.
Real estate investing is not a passive activity. It requires careful planning, due diligence, and ongoing management.
He even talks about the importance of understanding legal and tax implications,
Right.
which can be quite complex, especially when dealing with real estate.
It's crucial to consult with qualified professionals,
Yeah.
like lawyers and accountants, before making any major investment decisions, especially in areas like real estate, where the legal and financial stakes can be high.
There's also been some skepticism about the existence of his rich dad. Some critics have questioned whether this figure was a real person
Right.
or a composite character created to illustrate his points.
That's one of the more controversial aspects of the book. Kiyosaki has maintained that Rich Dad was a real person,
Right.
but he's also acknowledged that he used literary license in telling his story.
So it's important to approach the book as a source of inspiration and ideas,
Yeah.
but not necessarily as a literal autobiography or a step-by-step guide to wealth.
Exactly. Rich Dad, Poor Dad is best viewed as a starting point for thinking differently about money,
Right.
rather than a definitive blueprint for financial success.
Okay.
It's essential to do your own research, consult with experts, and tailor your approach to your individual situation.
Despite the controversies, there's no denying that Rich Dad, Poor Dad has had a huge impact on the personal finance world.
Yeah, it really has.
Millions of people have read it,
Absolutely.
and it sparked countless discussions about money, investing, and entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Why do you think the book has resonated with so many readers, even with the criticisms we've discussed?
I think one of the main reasons for its popularity is its simple and accessible language.
Okay.
Kiyosaki avoids using complex financial jargon
Right.
and instead explains concepts in a way that's easy for anyone to understand.
He's a great storyteller, too.
He is.
He uses anecdotes and personal experiences to illustrate his points, making the book engaging and relatable.
And I think people are drawn to his message of empowerment. He challenges the status quo
Right.
and encourages readers to take control of their financial destinies
Yeah.
rather than relying on traditional systems or institutions.
He taps into that desire for financial freedom and independence, a life where you're not beholden to a job or a paycheck.
And he offers a framework for thinking about money that's different from what many people were taught growing up. He emphasizes financial literacy, asset building, and entrepreneurship as pathways to wealth creation.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
what are some key takeaways from Rich Dad Poor Dad that listeners can apply to their own lives,
Right.
regardless of their specific financial goals or investment strategies?
First and foremost, cultivate financial literacy.
Okay.
Educate yourself about personal finance, investing, and business. Don't just rely on what you were taught in school or by your parents.
Right.
Read books, take courses, listen to podcasts, and seek out mentors who can guide you. The more you know, the more confident and empowered you'll be in making financial decisions.
Knowledge is power, especially when it comes to money.
It is.
Don't be afraid to ask questions, seek out different perspectives, and challenge your assumptions.
Second, start thinking about money differently. Don't just focus on earning a paycheck. Think about how you can make your money work for you. Explore different income streams, consider unconventional investment strategies, and be open to new possibilities.
Challenge the traditional model of working for money and start exploring ways to have your money work for you.
Third, take control of your finances. Track your income and expenses, create a budget, and start investing early, even if it's just small amounts. Small steps taken consistently over time can lead to significant results.
And don't forget the importance of mindset.
Right.
Cultivate a positive and empowering belief system around money.
Yeah.
Challenge your limiting beliefs, replace negative self-talk with positive affirmations, and focus on developing good financial habits.
Remember, financial success is not just about numbers and strategies. It's also about mindset, beliefs, and behaviors.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad is a book that can spark important conversations and inspire action. But it's crucial to approach its teachings critically. Tailor the advice to your own circumstances, and remember that there's no one-size-fits-all path to financial success.
Take what resonates with you, leave what doesn't, and keep exploring, learning, and growing on your own financial journey.
And that wraps up our deep dive into Rich Dad, Poor Dad. We hope you found this exploration insightful and thought-provoking. Remember, the journey to financial well-being is a lifelong pursuit. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep striving to create a life of abundance and purpose.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time for another insightful exploration of a topic that matters to you.